camera, not at the TV. Good day, viewers, and welcome to this week's episode of Straight Talk Debate, where we dive into all things debate in regards to our high school learners. My name is Jemima Ndebele, and I will be your moderator for today's debate. For those of you who are new, Straight Talk Debate is a debate competition show that aims at engaging high school learners on current affairs in the hopes of bringing forth more articulate and more aware youth. So, as you guys can tell, we only have two learners from each school. Today's schools we have Hage Geingob Secondary School and Academia Secondary School. Brilliant learners we have here, but the nature will be a little bit unorthodox, as it will be a presidential style debate with only one learner from each school being allowed to speak and represent their school. So let's get into the technicalities before we dive right into the fun part. To make things clear, the first speaker from Team Proposition will come up and present their opening speech that will be 7 minutes long, with the floor opening for POIs with one clap at 1 minute and then closing for POIs at 6 minutes with a double clap. The same applies to Team Opposition when they come up for their opening speech, and then we have the closing speeches from Team Proposition and Team Opposition, with the closing speeches being 5 minutes long, and POIs opening at 1 minute and closing at 4 minutes. That gives each speaker a total of 12 minutes for this debate. So before we get into the fun part and the motion for this week, let's quickly go on an ad break. Thank you so much, viewers, for staying tuned. Now, as mentioned, we have Hage Geingob High School and Academia Secondary School today, here to bring forth brilliant minds in today's Straight Talk Debate. The motion for this week was heavily influenced by what was trending on Twitter, as we are, after all, engaging with the youth. So following the tabling of a new bill in Parliament and the circulation of a video by Honourable Patience Masua, the motion for today reads as follows. This House supports the increment of the minimum rape sentence from 5 years to 10 years. And for Team Proposition, we have our first speaker here to deliver his opening speech.
Good afternoon to our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel privileged to be here today to debate such a sensitive yet important topic. The motion that was already stated by our moderator, I would like to restate it. Right, this House supports the increment of the maximum of the minimum rape sentence from 5 years to 10 years. Right, the central dichotomy of all moral discussions should we analyze ideas and conduct by looking to their consequences and the intrinsic moral goodness or wrongness or rightness of them. In this case, speaking about rape, we feel like measuring the consequences or actually trying to get consequences that are worth the crime. In this case, talking about the rape, ladies and gentlemen, we feel like we need to achieve a justice system that is equivalent to the crime committed, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, basically, I would like to start off by stating the problem within today's debate. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that over 52% of the rapists that commit this crime actually recommit the crime again, ladies and gentlemen. They go and rape more people. And the second problem being that victims don't actually feel like they've achieved justice or that these rapists have paid for the crimes that they have committed. Third problem being that people in the community don't feel safe with these rapists coming out so soon or coming out so soon without the entire criminal justice system being achieved. Fourth problem is the people losing faith in the criminal justice system, because now people do not actually have faith in the criminal justice system, as it does not actually present consequences with the crime, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to be soft on a crime on a crime, ladies and gentlemen, because you do the crime, you pay the time, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, in today's debate, we as Team Proposition are basically proposing that there is an increment of these sentences because of the current situation, the status quo. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is the status quo? The status quo is that the government or the criminal justice system is failing to achieve justice for rape victims, and it's failing as an entire criminal justice system, because it's not actually achieving what a criminal justice system is supposed to be achieving, which is deterrence, which is punishment, and which is rehabilitation, and I'll get more into that later on in my arguments, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, we basically in today's debate, I have two burdens for us to win as Team Proposition. First burden is that we have to show that the status quo doesn't work. We have to show that the criminal justice system currently fails for many, right? And the second burden that we have to prove, we have to show that the increment of the increment of this minimum sentence is actually necessary. And the burden that Team Opposition has to prove in order to take today's debate is that they have to prove that the current status quo is actually working. And second of all, they have to bring forth a counter policy that actually whereby they give us a better solution, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, moving on into my arguments, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, why is it necessary to then increase this minimum sentences from 5 years to 10 years, right? It is true, and it's only because of the status quo, right? We feel like the rape victims are not achieving the justice that they seek for, right? Rape victims are very depressed, ladies and gentlemen, because the current criminal justice system goes too soft on these rapists, right? They do not actually achieve the justice that they deserve or the justice that they want, right? We feel like also these rapists do not actually get a chance to change, because the current or years that they get to go in jail isn't enough, right? They come out not a better person, but a far worse person, right? To go in to commit the crime all over again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we also have to consider the members of the community, right? If I've spoken before in terms of problems, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that the community suffers at large, because the community then has to live with rapists that haven't been properly rehabilitated, ladies and gentlemen, and the community has to live with future rapists that do not actually really have deterrence, who are not actually afraid to commit the crime because of this minimum sentence, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, why is it important for us to actually increase this? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that the members of the community gain faith in the justice system. This is something that we think the government and everyone else wants within the community, because when the community actually, or society actually fears and actually trusts the criminal justice system, one, we have less criminals, and second of all, we have citizens who feel safe in their own who feel safe within their own communities, because they know that the criminal justice system isn't going to fail them at the end of the day, right? So, when we have a criminal justice system that fails like the one that we currently have, what happens, right? We have to understand that the crime of a rape, ladies and gentlemen, is on the rise. It is getting worse by day. Why? Because we do not have an effective criminal justice system, right? So, moving on to my second argument, which is justification, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, why is it then justified for us to increase? The minimum years of this crime, right? We feel like, ladies and gentlemen, it's only justified because of the crime committed, right? When I spoke, my opening statement was basically to measure the consequences on the moral wrongness that has been achieved or that has been made, right? So we feel like it is justified for a rapist to go to go to jail for more than 10 years, ladies and gentlemen, because if you think about the trauma and the thing that they put the victims through, ladies and gentlemen, that not even 10 years pays for it. In fact, they deserve for life, right? But ladies and gentlemen, because of the criminal justice system that also stands for people's rights, we have to understand that we have to bring forth a criminal justice system that actually tries to rehabilitate and give these people a second chance. But in terms of giving them a second chance, right, we also have to achieve the point of actually trying to achieve deterrence, which is keeping these criminals from committing this crime, this crime, and we also have to achieve the point of the point of rehabilitation, whereby we give them a chance to be reintegrated into society, right? But then we feel like rehabilitation isn't necessarily achieved when you put them when they go to jail for 5 years, right? Because 5 years isn't enough for a person to change their whole entire personality. We feel like 5 years is 5 years of resentment, right? 5 years of wanting revenge. But we feel like once they are past that 5 years, they can actually get the sense of maturity and actually understand that the crimes that they have committed are wrong, right? I would in my closing speech, I will then talk about, or I'll go further into the criminal justice system and talk about why we actually want this increment, which I feel I already tackled in this speech. I've told you the problems within society and why we as Team Proposition would actually love to see the minimum sentences of this crime actually increased in terms of. Thank you.
Quite a riveting argument there from Team Proposition. And might I add that it was very, very thought-provoking. And also the manner in which Ara here came and tackled the amendment bill of the rape, the combat, is it the combat of the rape amendment bill? If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, viewers. Also, please do remember that we have an ongoing Public's Choice Awards competition. So what you can do is you can see on the name boards the name of your favorite debater, and make sure to comment, like, and subscribe and share this debate so that your favorite debater can walk away with the prize at the end of this season's tournament. Also, the season will run up until the 25th of March 2022, so please do make sure to keep those comments coming. And also, debaters, I hope when you get home that you do let your friends know to go and watch this, and also comment if you do want to win that prize, because I tell you, it's a good one. So next up we have our Team Opposition, Kenanjo, who will be the first speaker from Team Opposition, and she will come and give her counter argument.
Greetings, viewers and worthy opponents. I am Kenanja and I'm the speaker from the opposing team. House at large, I tell you that it does not take a rocket scientist to understand that longer sentences lead to more prisoners within the prisons. House at large, this leads to overcrowding. House at large, then prisons have to get more funds, House at large, and this takes a strain on taxpayers. Prisons are costly, using up funds that could go to other government programs that are more effective at fighting crime. This is money that could be instead used to educate the public on sexual acts of violence. Using sexual education programs in school to create a culture of consent and help prevent sexual misconduct. Everyone can benefit from comprehensive knowledge about safe sexual behavior. When we speak of all this, we speak of prevention education, House at large. House at large, the speaker from the proposing team claimed that one of his points was deterrence, House at large, but in fact, even though in fact there has been research that proves that long prison sentences have little to no impact on crime, House at large. It is ineffective partly because criminals know little about sanctions and specific times. It is based on the assumption that majority of rapists engage in a rational calculation with the likelihood that they will be apprehended, prosecuted, and convicted. This is an assumption because rapists are not turning their minds in a rational, calculating way, using a pros and cons list to see if the punishment outweighs the benefits, House at large. They are out there acting. They are out there doing. Therefore, that is why we believe as Team Opposition that it is not a solution to strain the government funds and taxpayer money on ineffective measures. We believe that the government, we believe that money should, We believe that more effective and proven measures such as prevention education should be used. We need to take the situation from the root. We need to take the situation from the root, house at large. House at large. Yes. Yesterday there was a report on a young woman, Miss Patience Mokale. She opened up about how she was assaulted by her older cousin while she was 7 years old. She never spoke about it till now, and he has passed till he recently passed house at large. When we think of this, we think of the stigma within our community. We think about the way that rape or exposing family members of rape is seen as taboo, house at large. And this is only at a 5-year sentence. Imagine if it was increased to a 10-year, over a decade. Imagine the amount of stigma there would be. What victims would come forward, house at large? This would, yes. Any POIs?
Okay, do you believe that not doing anything about it, or actually bringing forth the education that you spoke about, do you think then does away with stigma?
Yes, of course. Once we bring forth these education systems and we get the public used to this, and we normalize the education of sexual health and consent and sexual misconduct, we believe that this will educate people and this will help them move forward. And so yes, I do believe that this will help. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Quite an interesting argument there from Team Opposition as they brought in the whole idea of stigma and rape being stigmatized. Honestly, I didn't even think there was a possible angle in this debate. Thank you, Kinanjo. Now, viewers, why don't you let us know what you guys think and who you guys think might be the winner of this debate. Let's premeditate it. Let's premeditate it, let's engage, let's know what you as our fellow debate lovers think is going to happen. And also, please do clap, give a hand in your sitting rooms or wherever you're watching this from to our speaker from Team Opposition, Proposition, once again, Ara, as he delivers his closing speech.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to thank the opening speech of Team Proposition. They really opened our eyes on certain things that we actually feel like they're really worth engaging. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we have to understand, or we have to analyze the fact that the reasons we have prison cells, the reasons the government came up with the criminal justice system is to make sure that each and every single citizen that suffers from something unjust, ladies and gentlemen, gets the justice they deserve. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask a question. Should the government not equate a crime as big as rape to a longer prison sentence? Our answer is yes. That's why we propose it in today's debate, and I think we have given enough reasons to why we propose. We talk about trauma, we talk about the society, we talk about the criminal justice system, we talk about the way the criminal justice system has been failing over the years, and we also, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about the high rate of rape, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, we believe also, she tells us that the government funds that have been put forth. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not think any person's mental state is actually worth with any amount of money, right? We feel like if a person feels like, as a victim of rape, we feel like if a victim of rape feels like their justice lies in the prison sentence of the suspect that has committed the crime, then we feel like the government should then pay the price to achieve that justice for this person, right? So she also talks about how harsher sentences don't affect anything. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that harsher sentences do affect everything. In terms of the study that has went on in Australia, whereby the government of Australia has decided to bring forth prison sentences for each and every crime, including not putting on a seatbelt. And as for crimes such as murder, the prison sentences have gone higher, right? And we feel like the crime rate in Australia is further lower than the one in Namibia, right? She tells us about prevention education. Ladies and gentlemen, we feel like prevention education at the end of the day is a lost cause because we have so many funds that have been put in education and awareness for other things such as teenage pregnancy, HIV and AIDS, ladies and gentlemen, and we feel like they have all still failed. So if we're gonna talk about wasting funds, ladies and gentlemen, we feel like wasting funds is still gonna be affected because even if they try to address this issue, they do not actually achieve anything at the end of the day. Just making the situation worse, making this victim suffer, or making this victim live with their suspects within society for a longer period of time, right? She also talks about how people don't actually know about the sentences and that harsher sentences do not actually affect the crime, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that even though harsher sentences do not affect the crime, she tells us that it's something that's deep-rooted, right? Something that is mental. But we think that a harsher punishment actually brings them back because these people do not only go to prison to prison like that, right? Because we have a criminal justice system that believes in rehabilitation. They go into jail, but then they still have some mental programs that actually help them, that actually ask them why they did this, and actually tries to show them where they've done wrong, right? So we believe that if it's deep-rooted or mental, a higher or harsher sentence actually then helps at the end of the day because this issue of mentalness is then addressed in a higher prison or whatnot. Yeah. So in terms of stigma, ladies and gentlemen, we feel like stigma is gonna stick. Stigma is gonna stick, especially when your rapist is just across the street, right? Ladies and gentlemen, stigma is gonna stick because one thing we know about rapists, they're people that do not actually believe in the rights of others and do not actually care about the feelings of others because they've done something wrong. And once you release them, they go back into society and they see this as a bragging right? They do not stop talking about it, which actually makes it worse because, ladies and gentlemen, being seen going to school and somebody says like, yeah, a rapist is already out of jail, that's more stigma at the end of the day, and you keep reminding that victim that they never achieved the justice at the end of the day, right? So stigma sticks when you don't actually do anything about it. So ladies and gentlemen, we feel like we have won today's debate on the basis that we actually tell you when we try to reinforce the criminal justice system, and because our end game is far more beneficial than team opposition's end game, because one, we achieve justice for the for this victims, and second of all, we take criminals out of our society, living a better society at the end of the day. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm proud to propose, and I'm thankful for this opportunity, and yeah, that's why I think we've won. Thank you.
Quite an impressive argument there from Mr. David from Hage Geingob. I think Team Proposition has made it clear that they, as Team Proposition, want to wage a war on this rape thing in Namibia. And rightfully so. Rightfully so, I think. I can't decide, viewers. So why don't you make sure to comment down below what your views are, and then maybe, we can start creating dialogue in the comment section, because after all, it is important. Now, let's call upon Team Opposition Speaker Kenanjo to present her closing argument.
House at large, so what have we told you in today's debate? We have told you that these longer prison sentences are a financial burden, House at large. We have told you that longer prison sentences do not deter criminals from committing crimes, House at large. We have stated all our points. We have stated that instead we want to look for more effective methods that can be implemented, House at large. He talked about the mental health of the victims, House at large. I think this we as team opposition think that these funds should be allocated to other things, such as counseling for these victims, house at large. And then we go on to the 10-year-long the decade, house at large. There have been studies that have proven that the longer these inmates stay in prison, specifically the ones incarcerated for sexual violent acts, their tendencies only increase house at large because it is not about the sexual experience. It is about superiority. It's about power. It's about the mental house at large. He also spoke about Namibia and Australia house at large. I don't mean to offend anyone, but Namibia is not Australia, and unfortunately, the same measures that work in Australia might not work here for Namibia because we are different people. We come from different cultures. The things that happen, the laws we set, they affect us in different ways. Yes. So with all this, house at large, with all the points that I have brought forth to you, with all the things that I have told you, house at large, I spoke about the costs and everything, and I truly believe that we as team opposition have taken this debate. Thank you.
Okay, so given that your case was basically based on terms of stigma and government funds, you guys don't actually give us an end picture of what you actually achieve at the end of the day as team opposition in terms of the victim society and also for this suspects. What do you then achieve?
What we achieve is that we educate not only young but also older members of society on these important things such as consent. We counsel them and help them. We counsel them, yes, and we create better human beings for the future to prevent things like this from happening. We cut the tree from the bottom. Thank you. That is, I beg to close.
Another brilliant closing argument. I hope you guys are engaging in our comment section because honestly, I can't even decide. That's why we had to bring somebody in. Somebody wise enough to determine what is going to happen after such a rigorous argument. And I must say that we do have a couple of future parliamentarians here in the House today, and that's comforting to know that our generation will be in safe hands. But before we present you with the findings, let's go into a quick break.
If you're feeling, I'm feeling, and you know I won't stop. All we gotta do is take our love to the top. If I got it and you want it, and you'll never let it drop. All we gotta do is take our love to the top. I will ride for you, maybe even die for you. When I'm loving you, but my heart don't stop.
Good day, everybody. I am Eva Raquel Johannes, and I was the adjudicator for this debate. Starting off with proposition, the main blanket of information that we got from you guys is basically just the notion that says that, you know what, in order for us to justify what all the time these people get, it's according to the crime they did, right? And the time they have to spend in jail. It was necessary in this debate to understand the stakeholders and how it affected each and every stakeholder in that debate. You gave us to somewhat an extensive analysis to the stakeholders involved in today's debate. However, I feel like you missed a key point to the fact that something they brought up, and I'll say it later in their matter, you failed to explain to us how, as the state, because at the end of the day, we are still a democratic state, how then do you take care of the perpetrators in terms of what they did in the time they are going to spend in jail and the victim at the same time? Because at the end of the day, you're just talking about what happens to the victim, how do we get closure, how do we help them overcome whatever they went through, but you don't actually step back and say, you know what, we are still a democratic state, we still have to uphold both rights at the end of the day, and where the balance kind of tips. That's a point I think you should take. And then you really justified how the status quo does not work for any of the people, especially those who have been abused by these sex offenders, right? And you really pointed out the fact that the justice system needs to change in order for them to gain buy-in from the community, for them to actually be able to accommodate the people when they come out of these prisons or wherever they were held, right? And then you also tried talking about rehabilitation, but I really didn't get the mechanisms that you're going to put in place to actually rehabilitate these offenders. Because at the end of the day, you're going to put them in for 10, 20 years. Some people actually do survive until the whole time elapses, and then they come back into society. The rehabilitation part, you really didn't explain to us, this is what we're going to do this is what we're going to teach them while they're in prison, this is how we're going to behave with them while in prison, and you really didn't get to the social aspect of the debate as to how we're actually going to teach the larger community how they should be dealing with these people. You just make it a thing of, yeah, they're monsters, they should go to the dungeon. However, this is a 50-50 balance step where, yes, the victim needs to be taken care of, and yes, the perpetrator still needs to be taken care of in terms of the democratic state that we find ourselves in. Cool? Then we go to the governor basically told us here that, you know what, we're using so much money to maintain these prisons, and it's ridiculous how we have people not being educated, children not going to school, people are going hungry, and you really pointed out the social ills that are happening in our country particularly, and you pointed out how we could have used those funds to maintain those people instead of putting it into prisons, right? Again, the democracy balance still comes to you guys. How do you take care of them? Obviously, we just cannot put people in prison and then not provide them food, not provide them water, not provide them the basic necessities for a human being to actually live. So again, how do you take care of the prisoners in as much as they did something wrong? Okay. You also spoke about how the stigma exists and how people are afraid to report when it comes to maybe their family members and stuff like that. And he asked the POI of, if you don't do anything about it, if they don't get timed for what they did, does the stigma go away? And you said yes. However, I do believe that it doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody from your family or somebody close to you abuses you, the stigma goes away if they go to prison for 5 years. Stigma is still there. The thing all houses needed to explain to everybody is, how do we, as a larger state, inform everybody about the pros and the cons of this debate and not necessarily shut one house out? Because you furthermore went on to speak about how there is no direct link between somebody's change in behavior and the time they spend in prison. True, statistically, it's not proven that when you spend 50 years or 20 years in prison, you're going to change your habits. It usually depends on what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be treated in the facilities of in the correctional facilities. So with that said, I do believe that it's only fair for one team to win, and I deliberated it to be side proposition, solely because they really showed us the pros and the cons to some extent. However, it was a really close debate. Thank you.
Welcome back, viewers, and congratulations to Team Proposition that won today's episode of Straight Talk Debate. That means they go straight to the semifinals. They'll be taking place on the 18th of March 2022. So guys, please do make sure to come back and continue commenting who you'd like for your Public's Choice Awards winner to be. The debater that is most articulate, the debater that grabbed your attention and held it. And you can even look back to last week's debaters and choose your Public Choice Awards winner there. But until next time, this has been Straight Talk Debate, and I was Jemima Ndebele.